Oklahoma comes in at number 17, but that's actually the Sooners' lowest ranking in 11 cycles. But still, there is a lot to be excited about, like one of the top offensive tackles in the class, Michael Fasusi, plus a new quarterback, John Mateer, joining the group in the portal to pair with a new offensive coordinator. But I want to know who he's going to throw to, so maybe we'll ask our friend. Let's hear from Collin Kennedy of Sooners Illustrated.
The class of 2025 for Oklahoma was always going to be judged by its offensive line haul. And good news for the Sooners, offensive line coach Bill Bedenbaugh went to work. Michael Fasusi finishes as the #1 offensive tackle in the country, according to 24/7 Sports. He is joined by Ryan Foje, who climbs into the top 70 of the top 247, an elite offensive tackle duo, joined by the likes of Darius Afalava, Owen Hollenbeck, a quality PWO get in Sean Hutton, a very exciting frontline group headed to Norman. I think it's worth mentioning, too, Oklahoma keeping elite in-state talent within those state lines. I'm talking about cornerback Tristan Haynes, wide receiver Elijah Thomas, defensive end edge rusher C.J. Nixon, all players in the top 247, all three atop the state of Oklahoma rankings, and all three at premium positions. OU able to keep them home, and overall, Oklahoma excited about its 2025 class.
You heard him say it, a lot to be excited about in this 2025 class. I guess I have to be the Debbie Downer in pointing out the stat that this is their lowest recruiting ranking in 11 cycles. So overall, it definitely does not help that this is the year that Texas also is #1. But if you evaluate this class as a whole, what would you say in terms of the excitement level with what they've got coming in?
Well, Collin certainly brought up the headliners. The two offensive tackles, Tristan Haynes, Elijah Thomas, Max Preps Player of the Year there in the Sooner State. Oklahoma's coming off a 6-7 campaign, right? They lost to Navy. Everyone pointed fingers at Jackson Arnold. My question is, did he have the offensive talent around him that he could elevate? No. Okay, did they go out and get it through the high school ranks? I don't think... maybe Elijah Thomas plays year one, but he is not going to be, an all-conference type talent in the SEC. So I want to ask Cooper, hey, did Oklahoma get better at the wide receiver position? Because that's my question. Who is John Mateer going to throw passes to?
Well, you made the point earlier when you and I were talking. You thought Oklahoma was going to take a Texas A&M type of approach. And you look at Texas A&M, if you're not familiar, what they've done at the receiver position. Guys like Noah Thomas, guys like Mario Craver, guys like KC Concepcion. We'll see what happens with Micah Hudson, Jonah Wilson, another guy they bring over from Houston. You look at Oklahoma, a little bit of a different approach, right? Javonte Gibson, we like a lot, comes over from Arkansas Pine Bluff. He's going to make a big step up in competition here. Keontae Lewis was a guy that was a Power 4 guy coming out. Last year at Southern Illinois, had a really good season. Isaiah Petagna, really kind of a speed guy, will fit in place for Brennan Thompson, who's off to Mississippi State. So they have some guys. Who is a guy out of that group that you say you're going to rely on as a #1? I don't know. That being said, I'm going to talk about John Mateer for a second, right? Because he ranks #5 in the transfer portal. No player, in my opinion, is going to have more of a sizable impact in all of college football as a transfer than John Mateer. Last year it was Cam Ward, who I said conservatively will help Miami to 2+ wins. I think if you go back in that schedule, it's probably 3, right? I think John Mateer is around a game and a half. The other part about this is you get the continuity of the offensive coordinator, Ben Arbuckle, coming over from Wazoo as well. So that helps out some things. Andrew mentioned, what did this offense look like last year? Was Jackson Arnold put in the best position to succeed? And let me say this, Jackson Arnold left a lot of food on the table as well. He's part of the problem last year too. But you look at the offensive line, all new faces. You look at the receivers, Nick Anderson, Jaleel Farouk, Andrell Anthony, all banged up, injuries, no continuity there as well, no continuity in the run game. It was the worst position you could ever put a young quarterback. Now you have an established presence in John Mateer. And the other thing I'll say about this, Mateer's ability to run. When you have an offensive line that is trying to gain confidence, we saw this a couple years ago with Jaden Daniels, and they had 2 freshman tackles, and Emory Jones and Will Campbell. Those guys ended up being really, really good players, but at the time, they were still drinking through a fire hose as well. The ability to run, scheme them up in the run game is going to mean a lot. I think they've done enough. Could they have done more? Absolutely, but Oklahoma is going to be one of those teams. This is a vital year. Like, you can't overstate that enough, because Andrew made the point. You look at what they did at the offensive line. You look at Fasusi. You look at Ryan Foje. You like it. Outside of that, you're maybe kind of thinking like, I don't know. Can you keep up with the Joneses in the SEC top 20, fringe top 20 class? Is it good enough? I don't think so. Now, I think portal-wise, they can stabilize for a year, but they got to get better.
There's already a lot of pressure on Brent Venables, especially going into this class or into this upcoming season. So how does this class alleviate any of the pressure, or does it?
Well, Michael Fasusi's a guy we love, right? And I know we just kind of talk down what Oklahoma's done from a talent acquisition standpoint. There's a reason why he finishes our top-ranked offensive tackle.
Yeah.
We think
We're comparing it to what Oklahoma has been able to do in the past, though, and what they need to do this season to alleviate some of that pressure.
Well, they got to win
standards.
They got to win games because that's going to help them on the recruiting front, right? And there's a play caller change. Brent Venables, he's 22-17. Right, you brought up the fact that one of their primary rivals is Texas has broken through, and especially in year one in the SEC. So I think for me, Cooper used the term stabilize. Yeah, they got to figure it out, right? And they got to get some of these young guys going. David Stone, former 5-star that's sitting there. PJ Adebawore on the defensive side of the ball. Brent Venables, when he was at Clemson, he was known for these creatures up front that were turning into NFL draft picks. Where are those dudes on the defense?
I don't know. Do you see them?
Wait and see. They certainly have some parts. I mean, you look at Oklahoma, what they did last year. I think maybe some people will look at the Alabama game as an outlier. I think you just want to see more consistency game to game, but quarterback was obviously a mess. I think they addressed that. They get a new play caller as well. They're going to be better. Is it going to be enough if you're an Oklahoma fan to say, hey, long term, we feel good about the outlook of this program and what that looks like? And you mentioned it, David Stone, PJ Adebawore, some of the biggest pickups that they've had. Now, granted, guys like R. Mason Thomas have emerged as well, and they have some really, really good young parts there. But they got to take a sizable step, and I'm kind of in between. I don't know if they've done enough, but they have some really intriguing parts.
Yeah, and Oklahoma has another incredibly challenging schedule up ahead. I mean, that is, of course, life in the SEC, but the Sooners in particular, no favors doing to them. Hey, SoonersIllustrated.com is the place to be for all things Oklahoma. Our friend Collin Kennedy and the whole crew there will have you covered all throughout the offseason and, of course, throughout this make or break, I'm calling it, Oklahoma Sooners 2025 season.